characterizations. It was established by the Iranian Revolutionary Guards in the early 80s. So there are a lot of factors. And when Iran wants to train, for example, Iraq, Hezbollah took up that role of training. The Ansar Allah movement, it also sent trainers over there. So it's acted as a very important player in terms of Iran being able to expand its influence to places like Iraq and Yemen. The Iranian footprint in those locations very much owes to Hezbollah. So that gives you an idea of how special and how important an asset and an ally Hezbollah has been for Iran.
Ali, thank you so much for all of that. It's been very enlightening, certainly for our viewers and myself. Now, I want to go back to Heidi Pett, who is in central Beirut for us. Heidi, you've seen video of people fleeing, is that right?
Yeah, there's many people fleeing the southern suburbs of Beirut, the Dahia area, on foot, by car. We're seeing people, scrambling to get out of an area that, of course, during the war here in September and October, saw huge destruction and large numbers of civilian casualties. And so residents of southern Beirut are once again fleeing their homes, making their way to areas that they consider to be safer. And so the question is, what will the strain be on the rest of Beirut? In September and October of 2024, when I was here, the residents of Dahia were camped out along the beachfront, along the Corniche, on open streets and beaches across Beirut. And so we're seeing an exodus from areas that are being targeted by Israel once again. And it's not just the Dahia, we're also seeing traffic jams and people leaving southern Lebanon any way they can. So we've got heavy traffic. It's 3:30 in the morning here, and the streets of southern Lebanon are full.
Now, that's absolutely right. I saw those people sleeping on the streets of the Corniche. A lot of them, Heidi, had only recently gone back to their houses that had been destroyed. Those houses were still in the process of being rebuilt. Once again, it's Lebanese civilians that are suffering as a result of these Israeli strikes taking place, whatever justification there is for them. So the question is to you, do you think that Lebanon is Beirut ready for an influx of yet more displaced people?
As you mentioned, Lebanon is still feeling the effects of the war, which here never really ended. We do see still daily violations of the ceasefire, whether it's incursions, drone strikes, and things like that by the Israeli military. And the country is still recovering socially, economically. People still cannot return to their homes in the south, and there is still visible damage in parts of Dahia. And so, coupled with the financial crisis that began in 2019 and the port explosion, Lebanon has experienced a series of crises. It's still recovering from all of those. And, you talk about people going back to their homes. Some of them have still not been able to.
Heidi Pett, live for us there from Beirut. I want to go now to Nida Ibrahim, who's in Ramallah in the occupied West Bank. Nida, we're hearing more from the Israeli army, as I understand it.
Yes, we are hearing from the Israeli army, and they're saying that all of the projectiles fell into open areas, so there was no need for the sirens to be sounded off as a result of these projectiles. So again, in the Israeli perspective, these rockets and these missiles have not really caused any damage, but they were very swift to act upon them and strike Lebanese targets as if they were waiting for that opportunity. One would say they were saying in their statements, the Israeli army, that they have been prepared for such a scenario. They called Hezbollah as an entity that's working under the auspices of what they call the terrorist Iranian regime, and that's why they were going to strike against anyone that poses a threat against Israel. They've also added in their statement, the Israeli army, that they consider Hezbollah as a devastating threat to Lebanon itself.
Now, I want to go back to our original conversation that we were having earlier before this actually happened, because there are still sirens that were ringing out in Tel Aviv this evening. Just talk us through the latest attacks that are taking place against Tel Aviv.
Well, as far as I can see now, and as far as an hour ago, there has been no new sirens in Israel. But let's talk about what happened in the evening when sirens sounded off, not just in central Israel, but also in other areas across, including the north of Israel. But most importantly, in Jerusalem, where the Israeli ambulance services and the Palestinian ambulance services said that they were dealing with injuries. Most of these injuries, as we understand, are light, are minor, but there is an injury of a man that was described as a moderate. Now, let's not forget that when this happens, Israel tends to not allow anyone to show the casualties, the damage that was caused by these Iranian-led missiles. But as far as we are trying to get information, we think that the hits that took place tonight, this evening, and through the late hours of Sunday have been heavy. But whether they caused big damage, that remains to be seen, because we've been hearing from the Israeli Revolutionary Guard as early as Sunday morning, after the announcement of the killing of the supreme leader Khamenei, that they will be cracking down on Israeli military sites. And that is a place where Israel deals with a lot of sensitivity, in addition to trying to prevent anyone from sharing any information about casualties in residential areas, for example. So just to give you an example, yesterday when we were reporting early on Sunday about the strike in Beit Shemesh, which is a city near West Jerusalem, we only knew the number of casualties, which was 9 killed and 11 missing, just hours and hours later. So it will be a while until we get to know what happened during these strikes that could have been caused by the projectiles themselves or remnants of intercepting missiles.
That's Nida Ibrahim live there from Ramallah. Now, more explosions have been heard in the Iranian capital, Tehran, in the last few hours. The US military says it struck more than 1,000 targets in Iran since the beginning of the joint US-Israeli operation. Earlier, Israel launched a fresh wave of attacks on Iran, including strikes that hit a hospital in the capital, Tehran. President Donald Trump also spoke on his Truth Social platform, warning that his military operation will continue until all of Washington's objectives are achieved. He urged Iranians to rise up to topple the Islamic regime.
Iran's formerly supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, is dead. This wretched and vile man had the blood of hundreds and even thousands of Americans on his hands and was responsible for the slaughter of countless thousands of innocent people all across many countries. Last night, all over Iran, the voices of the Iranian people could be heard cheering and celebrating in the streets when his death was announced. The entire military command is gone as well. These actions are right and they are necessary to ensure that Americans will never have to face a radical, bloodthirsty terrorist regime armed with nuclear weapons and lots of threats. For almost 50 years, these wicked extremists have been attacking the United States while chanting the slogan, "Death to America," or "Death to Israel," or both. They are the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. We are the world's greatest and most powerful nation, so we can do something about what they do.
As we mentioned, the US and Israel have launched new strikes across Iran. State media says an Israeli attack caused widespread damage at the Gandhi Hospital in the north of the city. Patients had to flee from the building. 2 nearby residential buildings were severely damaged. And earlier, smoke was seen rising in the heart of the capital, Tehran, near the country's tallest building, the Milad Tower. A police building and nearby homes were also hit. Local officials say there are deaths and injuries. State media says parts of Iran's national radio and television headquarters have also been attacked. In the southeast of Iran, there have been explosions in the Shahid Beheshti port in Chahabar, and fires have engulfed parts of the port area. Now let's go to Tawhid Asadi, who's live for us in Tehran. Just take us through, Tawhid, what's been happening in the last hour where you are.
Over the past few hours, we heard sounds of fighter jets and also sounds of massive explosion here across Iranian capital Tehran in the both west and east of the city. Reports are coming about the different places
Sorry, say
being
that again.
targeted, even though we don't have exact information about the whereabouts of these strikes. It is the continuation of the strikes that have started. And of course, one of the first neighborhoods that were targeted was Pastor, in which the office of president and supreme leader were located. And then we've got the reports of the killing of the supreme leader. And after a while, now we are receiving reports about more and more killings of Iranian top military commanders, in addition to the defense minister, the chief of staff for armed forces, as well as the Secretary for Defense Council of the country. These are at least, I would say now, 10, 11 very important, high-ranking military officials that are being said and confirmed to be killed. And meanwhile, we've got the statements from IRGC. And on the latest, the statement came that saying that ninth wave of the operation against the Israeli territories, as well as the U.S. military bases in the region, have started, and the retaliation, more retaliation indeed, is going to be down the road. But speaking of the civilian casualties, which is another aspect of concern in respect of this very developing story, we know that the strikes on Iran does not limit it to the military headquarters or political centers. I was driving through downtown and I was seeing different neighborhoods in which residential areas were targeted as well, specifically those in the vicinity of the political complexes or military headquarters, and massive damages are quite tangible there. For instance, many buildings damaged or demolished in some cases, and that is indicative of the possibility of a growing number of fatalities when it comes to civilians. On that, we don't have any actually comprehensive number in that regard, but still in several instances, for instance, in Nilufar Square, an attack has happened in which at least 20 people have been killed. Also, in La Marde, we've got a report of 19 people being killed. And even more dramatically, in a school in Minab, now we've got the confirmation of over 160 student girls being killed after an elementary school was targeted. And also the headquarters, the head of the public relations of the Ministry of Health said that in the southern parts of Iran, 180 children have been killed as a result of these strikes. This is a very sensitive situation, as the stakes are high, as it runs the risk of further confrontation down the road, and as we see more fatalities when it comes to civilians.
Now, Tauhid, it was earlier yesterday morning now where the IRGC, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, issued a statement saying that they would attack Israel. That attack did take place. Has there been anything from the IRGC since the attack took place?
They are coming with one statement after another. And as I told you earlier, the ninth statement just a couple of hours ago came out. They claim that at least 40 people in Haifa have been killed as a result of their retaliatory strikes. They're also saying that they are hitting military bases of the United States in the region. Also, we've got the report from them, the statement from them saying that uh, three actually oil tankers belonging to the United States and the United Kingdom were targeted. Also, they claim firing ballistic missiles on the USS Abraham Lincoln. This is, in a sense, in line with the rhetoric that we hear from the Iranian military side on the one hand and the political sphere on the other, and that is based on the efforts and the concentration of efforts in order to continue this trajectory of retaliatory attacks. And
Right.
of course, we have to also keep in mind that speaking of the military sphere, we know that several important officials, military officials, were killed, including the head or the commander-in-chief of IRGC, Mohammad Pakpour, which is now being replaced by another military commander.
Tawhid Asadi there live for us from Tehran. Now, joining us from Washington, D.C. is Alex Vatanka. He is a senior fellow with the Middle East Institute. There's several things I want to talk to you about, Alex, but I'm going to begin with diplomacy. Donald Trump says he's heard from the Iranians that the Iranians want to talk. He says he wants to talk. This is in stark contrast to the statement he gave at the very beginning of the military operation that led to the death of the supreme leader, saying people should rise up and they should topple. This is their chance. The IRGC should disarm. They'll be given immunity. And now he's talking about talking to them. It's a confusing situation, but it is a confusing doctrine that he has.
Yeah, it's great to be with you. Look, confusing the other side and sort of running around and playing with ambiguity is something that Donald Trump really cherishes. That is something he considers a strength. I mean, it's been part of his commercial life, and now he's trying to adopt